Okay, year 6. So as we discovered yesterday, I've got to try and get these next 3 chapters in less than 8 minutes. So as we don't get cut off at the end, do we? Look at that. Big fat cut then, did you see that? Right, so Michael's gone into the garage. He's discovered this man who spoke to him. Doesn't look like he can move. He thought he was dead, okay? Mum and Dad don't want him to go in the garage. Do they already know what's going on? What's going on with Dr. Death and the baby? Let's see, shall we? Remember them themes: flight, birds, death, running throughout this story. Okay, so chapter 5. I asked them at breakfast what was going to happen to the garage now. When are they coming to clear it out? I said. Mum clicked her tongue and sighed and looked up at the ceiling. When we get somebody, Dad said. It's not important now, is it, son? All right, I said. He was going to be off work today so as he could get on with the house. Mum was taking the baby for more checkups at the hospital. Should I stay off with you? I said. I can help. Yeah, Dad said. You can take Ernie's toilet out and scrub the floorboards around it. I'll go to school, I said. And I shoved my pack lunch into my backpack and headed out. Before we moved, they asked me if I wanted to move schools as well, but I didn't. I wanted to stay at Kenny Street High with Leaky and Coot. I didn't mind that I had to get the bus through town. That morning, I told myself that it gave me time to think about what was going on. I tried to think about it, but I couldn't think. I watched the people getting on and off. I looked at them reading their papers or picking their nails and looking dreamily out the window. I thought how you could never just tell by looking at them what they were ever thinking or what was happening in their lives. Even when you got daft people or drunk people on buses, people that went on stupid and shouted rubbish or tried to tell you all about themselves, you could never really tell about them either. I wanted to stand up and say, there's a man in our garage and my sister's ill and it's the first day of school and I've travelled from my new house to my old school and I'm scared. But I didn't. I just went on looking at all the faces and swinging backwards and forwards when the bus swung round the corners. I knew if somebody looked at me, they'd know nothing about me either. It was strange being at school again. Loads had happened to me, but school stayed the same. Rasputin still asked us to lift up our hearts and sing loud in assembly, children. The Yeti yelled at us to keep to the left in the corridors. Monkey Mitford went red in the face and stamped his feet when we didn't know our fractions. Miss Clark's got tears in her eyes when she told us the story of Icarus and how his wings had melted when he flew too close to the sun and how he dropped like a stone past his father, Daedalus, into the sea. At lunchtime, Leaky and Coot argued for ages about whether a shot had gone over the line. I couldn't be bothered with it all. I went to the fence at the edge of the field and stared over the town towards where I now lived. When I was standing there, Miss Stander, one of the auxiliaries, came over. She'd known my parents for years. You okay, Michael? She said. Fine, I said. And the baby? Fine too. Not footballing today, love? I shook my head. Tell your parents I was asking, she said. She then took a fruit gum out of her pocket and held it out to me. A fruit gum. It's what she gave the new kids when they were sad or something. Just for you, she said and winked. No, I'm all right, thanks, I said. And I ran back and did a brilliant sliding tackle on Coot. All day I wondered about telling somebody about what I'd seen, but I told nobody. I said to myself it had been a dream. It must have been. Chapter 6. At home, there was a hole in the floor where Ernie's toilet had been. It was filled with new cement. The plywood screen had gone. Ernie's old gas fire had been taken away, and there was just a square black gap beneath the hearth. The floor was soaking wet and stank of disinfectant. Dad was filthy. He was wet and grinning, and he took me into the wilderness. The toilet was standing there in the middle of the thistles and weeds. Thought I'd make a nice garden seat for you, he said. The gas fire and the plywood were down by the garage door, but they hadn't been taken inside. He looked at me and winked. Come and see what I found, he said. He led me down to the garage door. Hold your nose, he said. And he bent down and he started to open newspaper parcels. Are you ready? It was a parcel of 4 birds. Found them behind the fire, he said. Must have got stuck in the chimney and couldn't get back out. You could make out that 3 of them were pigeons because of their grey and white feathers. The last one was pigeon-shaped, but it was all black. This was the last one I found, he said. It was under a heap of soot and dust that had fallen down the chimney. Is there a pigeon as well? I said. Yeah, been there a long, long time, that's all. He took my hand. Dare you to touch it, he said. Feel it, go on. It's okay. I let him hold my fingers against the bird. It was as hard as stone. Even the feathers were hard. It's been there that long, it's nearly a fossil, he said. That's unbelievable. It's hard as stone, I said. That's right, hard as stone. I went and washed my hands in the kitchen. Today was okay, he said. Yeah, Leaky and Coot said they might come over on Sunday. That's good. You managed the buses okay then? I nodded. Might be able to drive you over there next week, he said, once we're sorted out a bit. It's okay, I said. Mrs. Danto asked about the baby. You told her she was fine, didn't you? Dad said. Yeah. Good. Get some Coke and a sandwich or something. I'll make tea when the others come home. He went upstairs to have a bath. I looked down through the wilderness and I waited ages listening to Dad's bathwater banging its way through the pipes. I got my torch off the kitchen shelf. My hands were trembling. I went out past Ernie's toilet, the fire and the dead pigeons, and I stood at the garage door, switched the torch on, took a deep breath and tiptoed inside. I felt the cobwebs and the dust, and I imagined the whole thing would collapse. I heard scuttling and scratching. I edged past the rubbish and the ancient furniture, and my heart was thudding and thundering. I told myself I was stupid. I told myself I'd been dreaming. I told myself I wouldn't see him again. But I did. Chapter 7. I leaned over the tea chest and shone the torch. There he was. He hadn't moved. He opened his eyes and closed them again. You again, he said. What are you doing here? What are you doing here? I whispered. He sighed like he was sick to death of everything. Nothing, he squeaked. Nothing, nothing, and nothing. I watched the spider scrambling across his face. He caught it in his fingers and popped it in his mouth. They're coming to clear the rubbish out, I believe. Yeah, they are. They're coming to clear the rubbish out, I said, and the whole place could collapse. He sighed. Got any aspirin? An aspirin? Never mind. His face was dry and pale as plaster. His suit hung black like a sack of thin on his bones. His heart pounded. The dust was clogging my nostrils and throat. I chewed my lips and watched him. You're not Ernie Myers, are you? I said. That old git. Coughing his guts and spewing everywhere. Sorry, I whispered. What do you want? He said. Nothing. You got an aspirin? No. Thanks very much. What will you do? I said. They'll clear the place out. It'll collapse. What'll you? Nothing. Now get lost. I listened for noises from outside, for them calling me. You could come inside, I said. He laughed, but he didn't smile. Go away, he whispered. He picked a blue bottle from the front of his suit and popped it in his mouth. Is there something I could bring you? I said. Aspirin, he squeaked. Something you'd like to eat? I said. 27 and 53. What? Nothing. Go away. Go away. I backed away out the light. I backed away out into the light. I brushed the dust and blue bottles and cobwebs off. I looked up and saw Dad through the frosted glass of the bathroom window. I could hear him singing the Black Hills of Dakota. Are you the new boy? Said somebody. I turned round. There was a girl's head sticking over the top of the wall into the back lane. Are you the new boy? She repeated. Yeah. I'm Mina. I stared at her. Well, she said. What? She clicked her tongue and shook her head and said in a bored-sounding sing-song voice, I'm Mina, you're... Michael, I said. Good. Then she jumped back and I heard her land in the lane. Nice to meet you, Michael, she said through the wall. Then she ran away. It's the end of chapter 7, year 6, and no chance of me doing it in 8 minutes, nearly 9 minutes. So it'll have to go on YouTube. Take care.